Clouds rise like morning sun, chasing points, the game's begun. Big decisions week by week, fantasy glory's what we seek. Pick your squad, the clock won't wait. Captain choice will seal your fate. Two enthusiasts breaking it down. Fantasy kings, we're taking the crown.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tinker Time, an FPL pod, the show for every fantasy Premier League manager who's already second-guessing their draft. It's Monday, September 22nd, 2025, and whether you're wildcarding after week 5 or just here to scout some differentials, you've come to the right place. I'm Matt, alongside Jim, and we're here to help you tweak, test, and yes, tinker your way to the top of your mini leagues. We'll break down the best value picks, picture trends, and hidden gems, so you don't have to stare at your squad screen in despair. So let's pop the hood, crack open the spreadsheet, and get tinkering. So welcome back, everyone. This is becoming a common occurrence, and all jokes aside, definitely sad to see Jimbo not here, dealing with some personal stuff, but very happy to have FPL Black Lab family, my family member, long before he married my cousin, but the one, the only, Zachary Niles, back on the mic here tonight with me. Spend some time. Zach, how's it going?
It's going. Glad to be back. It's a game week I'd like to forget, so no one better to commiserate with than family. So why don't we get on into it and go over why my game week was so horrible?
It was an interesting game week. I know last week we lamented the fact that, where are the goals? Well, let's just say, like, we found the goals. I think there was only one clean sheet this week. I mean, Villa scored. Good for them. It only took a Sunderland red card, which, frankly, I thought it was pretty soft. But, whatever. And it took a defender to score their first goal in I think it was technically the 68th, but we'll round it to the 69th minute for our fun listeners, to get their first goal. But, and then Chelsea, no blues for United. I mean, what happened to them? Sanchez just kind of, I don't even know what happened with Chelsea.
I don't know who lost the plot more, Sanchez or Maresca, just making substitution after substitution, just taking off any attacking threat he possibly had and basically throwing the game away before it even started. Red cards galore this weekend, man. It was a wild weekend.
Yeah. And not to be outdone, some late heroics by your boy, Martinelli. Some heroics right at the end there to steal a share of the points against City. City, honestly, they had their chances to put that game. I felt like they could have easily been up 2-0. But credit to Arsenal, credit to Raya for some big saves. I think that's 5 in a row unbeaten for Arteta against Pep, which is the longest streak for any manager against Pep. Is that accurate? Did I hear that?
Good point in the end. Obviously, when we get into the recaps, we can go over more the lineup and sort of how it all shook out. But good point. As a fan, we'll take it and move on. But yeah, good for Martinelli. And what a goal it was, too. Beautiful assist by Eze on the pass as well. So we'll get into that one a little bit later. But good to see two heavyweights go at it. And one draws about what happens with a City Arsenal fixture of late.
Yeah. Well, let's get into our player of the week. So none other than, I think, if you had polled, most managers, I think most managers would have guessed Anton Stach. I think technically it's Stach, Butterscotch, whatever you want to call him. Midfielder over at Leeds, 15 points. So he scored a goal, had no clean sheet, but I think he had an assist. I think I actually wrote that down wrong. 15 defensive contributions. So he definitely got those 2 points there. 3 bonus points in 90 minutes. I think he's only priced at 5 mil. I mean, he might be entering the conversation for the best priced 5 mil midfielder in the game. I mean, I don't have his stat sheet in front of me, but over the first 5 game weeks, I mean, we're starting to get a pretty decent sample size. He might be entering, we've seen a lot of managers wild card. He's starting to pull that chip. He's starting to enter that, budget midfielder that is nailed on minutes. You kind of can't overlook him.
Yeah, he's had a great start to the year. I mean, Leeds have had a really good start to the year, and yeah, he had a goal and assist in this one, and 15 DEFCON is just insane in a game that they win 3-1 and
Mm,
basically manhandled Wolves. And he's done this before. He's gotten off to a great start, and yeah, if you're wild carding and you're trying to fit in, Holland, Salah, we saw Palmer back quickly, Saka back. A lot of the big boys are back now. So if you're looking at a wild card and you need a budget midfielder to stash in that, fifth spot, play him in a good fixture. I mean, he's looking great.
yeah. Yeah. Um, Leads are fun. I mean, I think we talked about that even on some of the like preseason preview eps. Like Leeds are just a fun team to root for. They bring excitement, they bring goals. I'm glad to see that they've brought that back to the league. Just a fun team to root for. I don't know how you root
Yeah,
against them, so
you don't
I'll
really
keep
want
watching
to
them.
touch any of their attackers for FPL purposes, but like from midfield on back, they're all priced really well and they're all performing. So yeah, fun team to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Now the opposite side of that, our biggest flops, and this is a trend, Watkins and Rogers. So Jimbo actually he had Watkins as his differential captain,
Mm,
which I kind of called him out on it because he was pretty low on Watkins for the last few weeks, and I called him out on it. I said, I kind of felt like you were leading listeners astray because you didn't want listeners to bring Watkins in just so you could bring Watkins in, uh, and then kind of make up the gap there. But I don't know, he didn't buy what I was trying to sell. Uh, Another blank for Watkins. I'll put Rogers in that conversation. I know people aren't really captaining Rogers, but for the price point and for what he was bringing to FPL last season, Villa still really haven't clicked. They concede late against Sunderland on like honestly just kind of a jump ball that falls
yep,
to. And we'll talk about the game itself. I think Watkins is up there with biggest flop. I have also got Florian Wirtz didn't even start this week.
yep.
We can maybe talk about that too. We talk about the game itself. And then Palmer, as far as tactics go, you talked about Mariska kind of taking him off. Groin injury sounds like that is not completely, not completely over the hump with that just yet, and we'll talk about it. But I mean, these players just
Yeah, these
not doing it right now.
no. So I had Watkins and Verts this weekend. So part of the reason my game week was so bad, but it was a lot of hold for one more week for good fixtures. It can't get any worse, can it? And it got a lot worse. Verts coming in, not starting, Watkins. I mean, Watkins at least had a couple chances in this game. I mean, between him and Rogers, I mean, Rogers is brutal. I mean, if you have him, he needs to get out of your team. There's way too many good assets at the same price point. Watkins is just tricky because there's not a lot of strikers around the same price you're going to want, and their fixtures are still good. It's just a matter of like, how long can you wait, especially as prices continue to drop on these guys. So spoiler, I'm going to have him for another week, most likely, because again, there's no one that I really want to transfer him to in that price bracket. So we'll get into that later on. But yeah, they just continue to look bad. I mean, at some point, Emery's got to be. I mean, that seat's got to be warming by the day.
Mm.
And I believe they have a European fixture midweek as well. So hopefully they could find something in Europe and bring it to the Prem on the weekend. I believe they have Fulham at home, so not a bad fixture, not a great fixture. But one in years past, you'd expect Watkins to return in.
Yeah, yeah. This is where it kind of gets fun because now you have those midweek fixtures that just add like an extra layer of thinking and consideration
Mhm.
into play. I know we talked about Harvey Elliott a little bit. I think he was brought on. We'll talk about it in the match recaps a little bit, but just wondering if he starts to make a little bit more, if he starts to take a little bit more of those first team minutes, maybe less of a sub. I don't know,
Yeah,
just something to inject some life into that team because you got to think they have to do something. Just they,
yeah. I mean,
this
Emery's
is
still
not the Villa
starting.
that anyone expected.
Yeah, I mean, Emery's still starting. John McGinn, and it's like you're just not scoring goals. Like something has to change.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So why don't we get into some of the matches? It was a fun first match of the week. So we
Mhm.
started off at the Merseyside Derby. This was a fun one, I will say. So just a little bit of a recap here. So we started off with So Liverpool won this one 2-1. Brian Gravenberch scored a nice goal in the 10th minute,
Mm,
assisted by Mo Salah. Ekatike added another goal in the 29th minute, assisted by Ryan Gravenberch. Gravenberch owners were uh, rewarded heartily
if you
if you
had
owned
them.
them. Good for you if you had them. So Liverpool went into half up 2-0. They were in control of the game. Everton came out in the second half. Edo came off. Barry came in the 46th minute. And then Gay scored with an assist by Njai in the 58th minute. Verts finally came on for Gakpo in the first minute, so he got some minutes. And then Isak came on in the 7th minute, making
Mhm.
this was his Premier League debut, I believe, for Liverpool,
Yep.
replacing Ekatike. And at that point, Liverpool kind of saw the game out. I didn't actually end up catching the end of this game, so I don't really recall if there were any exciting chances, I'll say, towards the end of this one. I'll rely on you for that.
Yeah.
Overall, pretty standard, not the theatrics, I'd say, that Liverpool has kind of gotten us used to at the beginning of the season thus far.
Yeah, it was tale of two halves. I mean, the first half Everton gave Liverpool a ton of time and space on the ball, and they were just picked apart on those two goals. And in the second half, they came out, they pressed high. They didn't give them a lot of time in the counter press, and Grealish just took over honestly down the left. I mean, he was giving Connor Bradley a fit, which is great to see Grealish back and flying the way he is. They got the goal. They kept pushing. There was a lot of controversy at the end from the Everton players wanting more than 3 minutes of stoppage time. They thought that was a bit ridiculous. But in classic Liverpool fashion, at end of games, they usually get their way. Yeah, Everton couldn't get a second to tie it up. But just another game where Liverpool haven't looked kind of what we expect them to be. They're the champions. They're still finding ways to get the points, but they just haven't looked like they're flying yet, which I guess is a
Yeah.
concern to the rest of the league, but they still look in some of these games that they'll give up goals. If you play them a certain way, you can make it difficult again. But now you got Isak coming into the lineup most likely, and there's going to be some rotation. It's going to be a team now where there's a lot of good assets, and it's not knowing if you want any of them, right? I mean, Salah's probably the one that's going to play all the time, but Gakpo didn't look good in this game. Ekatike can move out left. Verts could play out on the left. Shazably came back into the middle. And that midfield three with him, McAllister, and Gravenberch, they ran the game. So, you
Yeah.
know, even going into Isak, it's just a matter of you may want to wait and see on some of these guys if your name isn't Mo Salah and just kind of see what the lineup shakes out with.
Yeah, it almost feels like if Liverpool wanted to, they could almost, I shouldn't say if they wanted to, but it almost feels like they have the depth that kind of mirrors some of like City's depth from previous years where, you don't necessarily know who Pep was going to bring in or who Pep was going to start that week, which almost kind of made you want to stay away from those players to a certain extent. I do think, to your point, though, like there is going to be some rotation. Right now, I think Verts is the odd man out just because he hasn't returned. He hasn't really provided much.
Yep.
I don't think he's actually provided anything
Mm-mm.
really other than just, doing some sprints. He's kind of hung out with Mo on the right side a little bit. This was another game where Mo, if you look at his heat map, he spent a lot of time on that right-hand side, but classic Mo fashion. Even when he has a quote unquote bad game, he still had an assist, right? So like he's still finding ways to impact the game and impact his FPL score, right? So, it's just again like Liverpool, like you said, at the top of the table, still class of the league at this point. Hopefully, the league is not over by December. So
Yeah.
we'll
And
see.
then just one other note, Tarkowski for Everton, DEFCON again. He's reached the threshold in every game so
DefCon
far. So
Beast,
he is
DefCon
a
Beast. I mean,
DEFCON beast.
it's insane. I mean, it's insane. What's his price at now? Is he at five? And he was 5.5, right?
I think he's still 5.5. He's in my team at 5.5. I don't think he's risen yet to 5.6.
Interesting. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. All right, moving on. So this was an interesting one. Brighton took on Spurs. So Brighton went up early in this one. So Yankuba Minta put Brighton up 1-0 in the 8th minute with an assist by Rudder. Ayari put Brighton up 2-0 in the 30th. If I could describe this goal by Ayari, honestly, it's a FIFA goal where you just take a shot from like way outside the box. Like there's no angle on it, and it just goes in. It's just very odd, but whatever. So Brian was up 2-0. Spurs pull one back. Richarlison gets one back in the 43rd minute, assisted by Muhammad Kudus. So Spurs went in to half down 2-1. Good momentum. Spurs impact transfer. Xavi Simmons coming in the 61st minute. Brennan Johnson coming in the 72nd minute. Impacted the game, but really Spurs were saved in the second minute by future rumored transfer Jean Paul Van Heck. Uh,
Mm.
really, I don't know what he was doing. I guess he was trying to clear the ball, maybe just put it out on his own back line, but own goal to make it 2-2. And it wouldn't be a Spurs game without a Christian Romero yellow card. This game ended 2-2. So Spurs end up salvaging a point here. To be very honest, this game, it didn't surprise me, the lineup that Thomas Frank rolled out. Spurs had a shorter week, with Champions League kind of mid game, and I think you're going to see that with some clubs, right? Where they're going to have a little bit of a shorter turnaround. You're going to see some lineups where I wouldn't call them punt games, but you're going to see where certain teams they're going to kind of test some of that depth. Now, Brighton again, they're always one of those teams where like they could have a first half like they did against City, or they could have a second half where they did against City. You don't always know what kind of team you're going to get when you play Brighton. But overall, like this is a game where if Ange was still the manager, we probably lose this game 4-0. So I was happy to see us take a point and still keep pace with the league at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think Frank came out. I think I saw today some quotes on Javi, just basically like he just getting acclimated to the league and didn't have like a full preseason, so sort of managing his minutes throughout. But I think we'll see him basically slotted into that lineup, going forward.
Yeah. Only other player I think to note, Kolomuani. I think I saw a report he had reports of dead leg. So
Mm,
I think I I don't know if I'm concerned about that necessarily. I don't really
just gotta
know.
wake it up.
Like dead. Yeah. I mean I don't know. Like that's an odd thing. Like I don't really know what that injury is.
Yeah,
Like you have dead leg. Like okay, so can you walk? Like can you run? Like, can you train? I don't know. Like I don't know. So
there's
hopefully,
gonna be more of an explanation on that one.
yeah. I don't know. Moving on. So next game was Burnley Forest. So we had a 1-1 draw here. So this was Ange's second game.
Mhm.
Off to an electric start, honestly. But this one was, you know, Nico Williams had a buzzer of a goal, second minute,
Yeah,
off of a kind of a botched corner, I think it was. Absolute laser, just kind of ripped one right in back of the net. And then Burnley answered. Jaden Anthony 1-1 in the 20th minute. And then, you kind of saw some subs, and this game kind of just, again, no more
fizzled out.
goals, fizzled out. Not necessarily what we were hoping if you were a Chris Wood owner like myself. But yeah, I don't know what to
Yeah,
make of this one.
I have a lot of concern about Chris Wood in this system. I think Igor Jesus scored two in the cup. He just took 75th minute. Chris Wood's coming off, and I don't know if Chris Wood is good enough. I don't know if Forest are good enough to have him playing only 70, 75 minutes a game to have him in my squad,
Yeah,
especially at like what is he, 7-7 now? You got Joao Pedro right in that price. You got
yeah,
Mateta right in that price. He just doesn't. People are going to want to get to Holland or Gyökeres or these other bigger names, Isak. He just doesn't seem like this is the year where you're going to want Chris Wood. I mean, Forest, I think, have a really good fixture again coming up this week. So if you have him, you'll probably hold him. But as Forest rotate through, European fixtures, I could just see Chris Wood's minutes in the Prem getting reduced as Ange keeps putting a stamp on this. And then from a
yeah.
Burnley perspective, Aiden Anthony's scoring again. I believe he may be the second. I think he's right behind Semenyo at this point for midfielders scoring in
Is he that high,
FPL.
really?
Yeah, he's had a absolute amazing start, um, and just doesn't seem like he should be playing for Burnley. but he is
Huh,
playing very well. I mean, yeah, 10-pointer, he had a 6-pointer against United. Yeah,
he's up there.
he's on a great start. Um,
He's up
you know,
there.
yeah, 5.5, another 5.5 mid. Like we talked about before, that's you could slot in that fifth spot and play him in good fixtures.
Yeah. I said it, I think it was either the last episode or the one before, but like it feels like the promoted teams this season, I don't know if it's they feel like they can play with the teams from last season or the teams from last season maybe have like taken not necessarily even like a step back, but like it's not usually uncommon to see one of the promoted teams just get absolutely handled all
Yep.
season. And I feel like Burnley, Sunderland, and Leeds, they've all been able to play with. I mean, I'd have to look again at like who they've played just to refresh my memory. Like, I mean, Burnley handled Liverpool, right? Like,
Yeah.
it just feels like these teams have some quality in them, and that's nice to see.
Yeah, we went from targeting the promoted teams for good fixtures to almost now it's like the table is starting to
Yeah,
shake out enough where you need to start looking at sort of the Wolves, the West Hams, Villa at this case, right? Like
Villa, I know.
these teams are playing, like they're playing poorly for a reason. They're at the bottom of the table and they're a better target than, Burnley at home is a tough game to score a lot of goals against.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, moving on. West Ham, Palace. So this was a fun one as well. West Ham are still just bad.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know how
Palace are
Graham
just really
Potter still
good.
has a job. Palace is also very good. Well, yeah, they are very good.
16 games
Ooh,
unbeaten for Palace. So after Liverpool, they have the highest unbeaten streak dating back to last year. I mean, they are
good for
in
them.
fine form, and especially with all the injuries.
Yeah, and I mean, and key exits. They did lose a guy. I
Yep,
think you might know who he is. So
yep.
yeah, so Mateta started things off in the 37th minute with a header to go up 1-0. Went into half up 1-0. Jared Bowen leveled things in the 49th minute. Had had a header off of a corner assisted by Malik Diouf. And then Tyrick Mitchell had a lovely volley in the 68th minute to go up 2-1. And that's where we saw the score end. Injury. Somerville came off in the 78th minute, but I don't think anybody has Somerville in their squads. That's really the only thing to note there. Yeah, I mean, again, Palace assets have been great this season.
All of their
I
defenders have been incredible. I mean, Gahey,
yeah,
Lacroix, Richards, Munoz. I mean, they all offer something different. I don't think they're a team that's ever gonna like haul in a game week where like they're gonna put four past somebody. But they're just consistent. They score goals, they defend very well, and I believe Sarr's coming back this week, which is huge for the creativity in that midfield. So
mm,
they're just a fun team, and they just continue to chug along, even though I do believe they have Liverpool this week. So this will be a good test to see how they play. But call it a hot take or not, but I think Crystal Palace gets a result against Liverpool. They may not win, but I don't think they lose.
I could see that happening.
Mhm.
I mean, Liverpool, I mean, if you take away some of their late game, you know, I don't even know what you call it, but their late game
Voodoo.
voodoo, yeah, I mean that's probably that's a good word to use. I mean, they are in some instances literally minutes away from dropping points. So, Palace, they're going to put pressure. They're not going to back down. I mean, I feel like they feel like they can play with the best.
Yep.
This will be a good test for Liverpool, for sure.
Yep.
West Ham, ugh, I think it's time to hit the panic button for them.
Yeah, I saw something that Graham Potter is basically all but sacked, but they play I don't know who they play next week, but they have Arsenal the week after. I think they play another like top four team, and they basically just said like we know you're going to lose those two games anyways, so we're not going to like fire you before those two.
They're playing Everton next week.
Yeah, so that's a game they could I guess get a result on, but his seat's got to be getting hot too, and they just look bad. They look really bad.
They look bad. They look bad. Yeah, it's odd. I mean, they've been bad now for a while. I don't know. They might just need to blow it up, but I don't know. I don't know.
Remember when Graham Potter was at Brighton and everybody wanted him, and then Chelsea ruined him, and now he's about to get fired from West Ham.
Chelsea will do that to you.
Chelsea will do it to a lot of players, a
it's
lot of coaches.
where careers go to die.
Yep.
Anyway, all right, moving on. So Wolves and Leeds. We kind of talked about this one a little bit. So Wolves lost this one by a score of 3-1. Wolves actually did lead this one for a brief amount of time in this game. Give me a chance at this one. Krishy, maybe.
Sounds
I
great.
don't know. We'll go with it. 8th minute goal assisted by Fer Lopez. This actually the build up to this goal was actually very nice. I will say, nice run in the box, a little give and go, a little backwards play to then feed it forward. Nice goal for Wolves, I will say. But then DCL Dominic Calvert-Lewin, nice header in the 31st minute to level the score at 1. And then we talked about Anton Stach in the 39th minute off of a direct free kick. If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. It was an absolute ripper. It was a beautiful goal. Can't talk about this guy enough. I think if he wasn't on your radar before this episode, he should be, because I think he's that good, and I think he's that valuable, and I think he's someone you should target. And then in the 45th minute, Emeka Okafor scored a goal to make it 3-1, assisted by Stach. So UConn alum, love seeing those UConn alums get on the score sheet. And that was it. I mean, it was 3-1 at half. No real action after the fact. Wolves trying to make as many changes as they can in their lineup to do something. I mean, Wolves have to be on relegation watch, if not almost relegation certainty at this point. But nothing really came out of this for Leeds other than Okafor getting injured in the 70th minute. But nice win for Leeds overall.
Yeah, I mean, the sad thing is Wolves fixtures start to turn and look really good going forward, but they just look really bad. So it's like, it's probably not even worth a punt, even with Strand Larson coming back. I mean, they're just bad.
I think the only thing that really stands out to me with this game is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think I mentioned it. I think it was honestly like right before the Gameweek 1 started when he came into lead squad, but he hadn't really started to train just yet. I think he's priced right now around 5'5", 5'6". If he's going to start and he's going to be on pens, he could be some value as your third, just to free up some funds. He's a player who historically, he's shown the ability to score some goals in the Prem. He's not going to be that threat that, he's going to go out and nab like 20 goals, but he might be able to give you, anywhere in that 10 to 15 range. Leeds are going to score goals, so he should be involved. I don't have his underlying stats in front of me, but it's nice to see DCL on the score sheet because he's a player that I personally have been keeping an eye on. So he's a player that when Chris Wood's run of fixtures kind of dry up, and by dry up, I mean when they're done playing Sunderland next week, I could be tempted to think about DCL, but we'll see kind of where my squad's looking at that point in time. DCL is also injury prone, so that's also in the back of my mind. All right, moving on. This one's tough because, like, as much as I love seeing Chelsea lose, I also hate seeing United win.
Mm.
But we'll go through it. So the big story with this game, honestly, was the fact that I don't really know if we can take much tactically from it. Sanchez with a red card in the 5th minute, right? So it was just like an idiotic. I don't even know what I would say about it, but just turned the game on its head.
Yep.
So 5th minute, Sanchez comes out of his box. Brutal. So Maresca just has to make all these changes that he probably wasn't planning to make off the rip. But anyway, the game did resume. Bruno Fernandes scored a goal in the 14th minute, assisted by Dorgu, who, of course, I had on my bench, so screw me. Casemiro added a second, assisted by none other than Harry Maguire, FPL's best forward playing a defensive position. And of course, this game could not be any less exciting because we needed to get another red card. Casemiro got a second yellow in the 50th minute or the 5th minute of stoppage time in the first half. So basically, both teams went into half down a man, and United went in up 2-0. So going into the second half, The game kind of played itself out, both teams down a man. Chelsea got one back in the 80th minute. So Trevor Chalobah scored a goal off of a header, assisted by Reece James. And United saw this game out. United won. United won the game 2-1. I actually didn't catch this game. I was frantically preparing for my son's first birthday party. But were you able to catch any of this live?
Yeah, I was watching it while preparing to come to your son's first birthday. Yeah, I mean, the whole like fixture just turned with the red card, right? I mean, it kind of just ruined the whole game. I guess if you're a United fan, you don't care, but it it just turned into a one-sided affair where, Chelsea was just sitting back. United was just trying to break down the low block, and they did a couple times, and they end up seeing the game out. I mean, the biggest storyline from this is Cole Palmer coming off. I mean, at first we thought it was tactical. Since it's come out, there's like lingering groin issue has been going on since like they said before the Club World Cup. But what's weird about it is they continue to like scan it and it's showing up completely normal. But then when he plays, he just continues to re-aggravate it. It's a shame because Cole Palmer's one that when he's fit and when he's firing is one of the most exciting FPL assets of the game. But I just don't think you could go there right now. I mean, I can't trust him that he's going to get any sort of run of games without re-injuring this groin again.
I have a theory. I believe that at the beginning of the season, he broke up with his girlfriend. So I think his groin injuries are self-inflicted because
He's been a
I
little
think
busy.
I think he's been a little busy. Maybe I forget who the manager was. You definitely know this. It was it Josie who said like players were not allowed to spend any time with their wives like leading up to a match.
I do remember
Who was
that.
it?
I don't remember the
Who
manager.
who I can't remember who it was, but no time with wives or girlfriends or something like 24 hours before a match because
Yep.
you don't want to risk any injury. But no, yeah, but in all seriousness, Palmer right now he's untouchable because he just he can't stay healthy.
Yep.
Now, I guess from an FPL perspective, that is actually kind of helpful because you think about, that's a lot of money that is freed up. You think about a player like Saka, who I think is now all the way down to 9.8 with some of the
Yeah.
price drops that he's had, who is, I don't want to necessarily say he's healthy, but he should be back. I mean, you're the resident Arsenal expert and gauge his health. How healthy do you think Saka is right now?
He looked incredible when he came on in the second half against City. Didn't look hampered at all. I mean, obviously he wasn't fit enough to start, but that was kind of to be expected. And they'll rest him this week because they have like Port Vale in the EFL Cup, so he'll get a full week of rest again. But
Right.
and Madueke got hurt in that game, so there's really no one else to play on the right.
Yeah.
So I think Saka slots right back into his spot, and yeah, hopefully he stays healthy because he's another one similar to Palmer that has these just nagging injuries year over year that sort of hamper the seasons that they could have.
Yeah. So I guess, for Palmer owners, don't fret, don't be alarmed. There are very viable, affordable options that, frankly, based on what Palmer's been giving you this season, I don't think you're really going to feel the drop off. If anything, you might feel a boost. The other thing I think in this game, so Cunha came on in the 65th minute, back from injury, so nice to see that. United the first couple game weeks. I mean, Jim and I we talked about it. United's attack, with Mbumo on the right and Cunha on the left. I know Mount was kind of playing up top before Seshko kind of got acclimated, but they, on the counter they did look electric. They were getting out there, they were running. I'd like to see more of it. I'm not saying that I'm expecting United to go out and score a lot of goals, but I think Cunha right now he might have had a price drop, so he might be in that like 7-8 range, around that 8 range, if I remember correctly. Could be a player, you think about differentials at this point in the season, players to target. Could be someone on the radar, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think United actually as a team have the most shots and the most chances created so far
I
this
think I saw a
season.
graphic like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they just haven't like got the end product yet. One thing in this game they were kind of forced to, given they had the ball so much, is that Bruno actually pushed further upfield into one of those number 10 spots, which a lot of United fans have been calling for him to do because he's so effective there. I mean, and he ran this game. I mean, Bruno looked absolutely incredible. So if Amarin finds a way to move him up into that spot, I think this attack would click. But yeah, they're creating chances. So if you pick the right asset on any given day, you'll be all set. And just one note on Sanchez, even though he got the straight red card, they actually gave it to him for the last man foul rather than violent conduct. So he's only going to be suspended one game, and he's going to serve that in the cup this week. So he technically will be back for game week 6, whether he starts or not, given what happened. We'll keep an eye on that, but he won't be flagged in your lineup for game week 6.
Excellent point. Excellent point. A Phil Black Lab with the Nuggets. I love it. All right, moving on to like honestly, like this game, like they played it. I like they could have not played it, and I don't even think anyone would have noticed. Fulham Brentford, Fulham won 3-1. We'll go through it. But so Mikel Damsgaard scored a goal for Brentford in the 20th minute. It was a gimme. Fulham were trying to play out of the back. Damsgaard kind of just intercepted the ball. It was a gimme. Good for him. Alex Iwobi for Fulham leveled in the 38th minute, assisted by Rodrigo Muniz. Harry Wilson then scored 2 minutes later to put Fulham up 2-1, assisted by Alex Iwobi. So nice game by Iwobi this week. Josh King, who's everyone's favorite 4.5 mil priced attacking midfielder, had a yellow card. Watch that yellow card accumulation. Could be coming up on a suspension there. Be careful. And then, Fulham kind of saw this one out. This one, I don't really have anything to say about this one, honestly.
No, the only thing I would say is Josh King. So early yellow, he was subbed early for new signing Kevin. This is actually the second game this has happened. So I know he's 4.5. He's not starting a lot, but I do think a little bit of regression and possibly a benching is coming for him just to kind of give him a little rest, a little reset, and see when he comes back. But not one that's going to break FPL anyway. So yeah, nothing else in this game. Just two
Yeah.
mid-table, middling teams that no one really cares about.
Yeah. The other thing that I was just kind of surprised at, Dango Watara, who I know you were pretty high on, I think early on in the season, seems like he's not really getting any minutes. I don't know what that's all about because they paid a lot of money to bring him in, Brentford.
Yeah, it's really strange. They paid a lot of money from Bournemouth. It was like close to 50 mil. The first game he comes in, he starts, scores right away, looks fantastic. And I don't think he's started since. So just weird. I don't follow Brentford, so I don't know if they've said anything about it, but obviously just avoid them for now.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So that was the slate for Saturday's games. So then moving on to Sunday's games, we started out with an absolute barn burner. The only clean sheet, technically two clean sheets of the weekend, Bournemouth and Newcastle. So reading through this recap, really easy. There were no goals. To be very honest, I think the thing I would probably want to talk about the most here is Newcastle's lineup. Voltemade got the start again up top, which was nice to see. He got 84 minutes. I think he did have a price rise. So I think right now he's at about 7.1. Good for him. But interestingly enough, Langa did not get the start again. Jacob Murphy got the start, 62 minutes. Thoughts on that? What do you think?
Yeah, this was just so Newcastle played Barcelona at home in the Champions League on Wednesday. Maybe actually been Thursday, now that I think about it. There's some teams had some really quick turnarounds. I think this was
Yeah.
a Thursday, Sunday for them. And you could tell by the lineup, Eddie Howe just set up a low block. He went five at the back, a lot of midfielders, and was basically just going to sit and try to counter. And you know what? Credit to him, it's worked. No one's really slowed down Bournemouth yet so far, and it worked. And they got a point away from home after a really tough game against Barcelona, where they actually looked really good.
Mm.
So that's good coaching. But yeah, there's just certain assets on Newcastle that you feel like you want, and every time you watch them, they're exciting, but they don't seem to be playing. And every time Elanga's played, I mean, I remember those first like 30 minutes against Liverpool, he was absolutely electric. But he hasn't started since. I will say they are getting Gordon back this week, and he should be the talisman for this team. They have a tough fixture against Arsenal, so it's probably to avoid this week, but then their fixtures turn a little bit, and Gordon's one that in this lineup could be exciting to watch. So Newcastle defense continues to get clean sheets. Guys like Dan Burn, Livermento's looked good. Pope as a keeper. So,
Hmm.
and yeah, from a Bournemouth perspective, I mean, kind of a letdown. we're expecting a bit more. I actually captained Semenyo in this week to go a little bit differential. And, they had a good game. They had chances, but ultimately couldn't break Newcastle down. And that was basically the story. Like you said, 0-0. Not much else really to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will say I think I nailed my goalkeeper differential view. I had mentioned Petrovic. Of course, like, hindsight's always 2020, but nice to see him get the clean sheet. And then Senesi, another defensive contribution, I believe. He
Yeah,
and Tarkowski, I believe, are up there. I think Senesi has hit 5 for 5. I think Tarkowski's hit 5 for 5. And I think Joachim Anderson at Fulham has hit 4 out of 5. I think the three of them have just been monsters.
yeah, and also Mukiele from Sunderland, who he'll be in the next game, hit it again.
Mm,
But yeah, I mean, Senesi, he's risen to like 4.7 now, but he's almost becoming like must own.
yeah.
For that price to start off with a floor of like 3 points every game is really nice. So
Yeah.
yeah, Bournemouth continues just a good result for them. Home game against Newcastle is tough, so they'll take a point and continue to move on. But yeah, no major chances in this game. Semenyo did get DEFCON and got the clean sheet point, so he ended up on 5 points, so not awful,
He is human, though.
but he is human.
All right. Moving on to the next game. So we kind of talked about this one a little bit, but just for the sake of, excuse me there, just for the sake of going through it. So the big thing with this game, Reynaldo, who I started this week, a red card in the 33rd minute. He didn't like the challenge. I think that, was it Matty Cash that gave him? I'm trying to remember who it was that he actually gave the foul on, but put a boot in his groin area. It's an easy call for the ref to, take the red card out. Dumb. But anyway, Matty Cash, 67th minute, nice goal from distance, assist by Bubakar Kamara. And 75th minute, Wilson Isidore, 1-1, assisted by Granit Xhaka off kind of a broken play, even though they were down a man. So credit to Sunderland for sticking to it, scoring down a man. And, Villa, again, just nothing nice to say about them. That's all I got.
Yep. Just avoid them at all costs. If you have them, if you can get off of Rogers, do it. If you want to get off Watkins, you can't be blamed for it, but just avoid them.
Yeah. I still maintain, like, wait until they show you their back and live with the fact that you missed being early on them. That to
Yep.
me is I can sleep at night knowing that I missed a few games where Watkins went off before I bring him in. And I think he's already priced at like 8-8 right now. So I think his price
Yeah,
already
he's at
dropped.
8.
So like, yeah, so you're already gonna like he already needs to have a few good returns and you're still gonna get him on the cheaper. So
Yeah. At this point, people will be slow to jump back in, even if he does haul this week, just given the PTSD from the first 5.
yeah. And too bad about Rodgers. He was a nice asset last season, but there's still
Mhm.
plenty of time. There's still 33 game weeks to go. Still plenty of time to make up those point totals, but we'll see what happens. All right. So then moving on to kind of the feature matchup, a couple of heavyweights this week. Your Gunners. I didn't say Gunners. That's growth. Uh, versus Man City. So this one was fun to watch. Lots of action here. City got the scoring started early in the 9th minute. Erling Holland scored, assisted by Dejani Reinders. Lots, lots of game action in between, but ultimately no goals until the 93rd minute. Gabriel Martinelli, assisted by Eberechi Eze, to level things at 1-1. Interesting, Arsenal chose to celebrate extravagantly instead of going for another goal, but that's not my job to judge. I think they were hard
Well,
fought and,
I don't know if you
you
saw
know,
this today, but Zubamendi was actually trying to get the ball out of the net, and Ruben Diaz and Rodri were holding him down in the goal. They literally wouldn't let him get up, but only I guess
oh my
only
God,
City he can get away with that. It was like
that's
two
funny.
older brothers like pinning down their younger sibling. Just nope, you will not get up. So yeah, he did
That's
try to
funny.
hurry it up. He was just impeded.
Yeah, so I think let's dissect this one a little bit.
Mhm.
I want to start with City first. Let's just get through it. So first off, Holland owners, he's in excellent form. If you don't have him in your lineup now, I think again, like yes, he's expensive, but he is returning. The only thing I think you can say bad about Holland is that he's a forward. Like his goals don't count as much, but they
Yep.
still count, right? I nailed City's lineup, which is crazy. I don't know how I was able to do that, but I think I nailed the exact lineup. I don't think Pep has ever started two lineups in a row, or at least I've been able to call it. So I will take credit for that. That is a very humble brag, but here's again good for him impacting the game. He still is returning, which is good for him. I unfortunately moved him out this week for Javi Simmons, so that one kind of hurt a little bit just because Javi didn't get the start. I think long term it was and I'll go through my moves, but I think overall I'll feel good about the moves longer term. But overall, I mean, nice game for City. Donnarumma, I think he proved why they brought him in, right? Like not necessarily to play the ball out of the back, but his shot stopping, right? Like Arsenal took quite a few shots. He saved quite a few shots, right? Like he's just big back there.
Yeah.
I didn't catch the entire second half, so I'll let you speak more to that. But overall, nice game, nice game. Tough result for them to lose it, in the end there. But I think you heard I think I saw a quote from Pep. Someone asked, why did you take Holland off in the 76th minute? And very bluntly, he said, hey, we had a midweek game, and Holland said, like, I'm tired. I
Yeah.
can't keep going. These games they're physical. I was surprised, and I wish I had a chance to talk to you before the last ep because I know Saliba was on the bench for their last game. I wasn't sure how fit he was, if he was going to start for this game or if he was, kind of just there to maybe get 30 minutes in this game.
Mhm.
Nice to see him get the start. Saliba, Gabriel, having Holland kind of wedged between the two of them, going toe to toe with him for 76 minutes. Credit to Holland for sticking in there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and it was
interesting game here.
one small error from Gabriel pushed up too high on Holland, and they made him pay.
Yeah,
Once Holland got free, he was just past him, and you always knew he was gonna finish it, but historically, Saliba and Gabriel have actually played Holland extremely well, and give him a hard
yeah,
time, but, yeah, this one, I mean, look, Arsenal set up a bit more defensive than I would have liked, starting Marino instead of Eze. I see why Arteta did it, but ultimately he got it wrong, and you could tell when halftime comes around and you sub on Saka and Eze at half, and the game instantly changes. At the end of the day, Arsenal had 67% possession. It's the lowest possession City has had in a game under Pep ever. So we set a record. And Pep basically came out and said, like, yeah, we respect Arsenal, and they forced us to play that way. So City got an early goal and they just sat back. Ultimately, Arsenal got a breakthrough at the end, but hopefully, as an Arsenal fan, this means I'm hoping Arteta learns a little bit from this and stops playing with the handbrake on so much and sort of lets it off a little bit. He's got a lot of creative players with Eze, Saka back, and we got to let him go a little bit and sort of trust your team to score some goals here. So, Arsenal's fixtures turn out really nice from game week 7 on, and there's definitely some assets that people will be looking to buy both offensively and defensively. But the minute Eze and Saka came on at halftime, this game just turned on its head, and they really
Mm.
controlled it.
Yeah, and I think from an FPL perspective too, this was never a game that, like, personally, I was expecting to see a clean sheet. I honestly, I was expecting this game to be more like 2-2. Uh,
Hmm.
when this game was going, 1-0, I was not expecting City to hold Arsenal to no goals all the way, to
Right.
the 93rd minute. Just with the way Arsenal have been playing, so that was a little bit surprising to me. But, nice to see Holland get a return. I did give him the captaincy ban this week. I have a very hard time giving Salah the captain armband, especially when it's the first game of the week,
Mm.
that old adage. So, yeah, I mean, fun game to watch. Some lots of FPL assets involved, but at the end of the day, ton, not a ton of returns. I mean, other than Holland, and if you had Reinders, you had the assist. But I can't imagine too many folks had Martinelli.
No.
And I'm interested to see what Eze's ownership is right now because I would guess that with his move to Arsenal, I bet a lot of folks moved on because he's probably not nailed on pens, right? Like Gyökeres and
Yep.
Saka are probably ahead of him. And I feel like Eze probably is not highly owned right now. So I don't know.
Yeah, and just a lot of depth, right, across the front of
Yeah.
Arsenal. So you could see them rotate a bit in other games, but I'm hoping based on the way he played and has looked, he's going to be a little bit more nailed on that left-hand side, especially with Madueke getting hurt in this game. It seems like, Eze and Saka and probably Odegaard in the middle will be the three behind Gyökeres going forward, and I hope to see that a bit more because the four of them could really be, devastating against bad teams. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
We'll see. All right. So that brings us to our team of the week. So if you had this entire team, good for you. You're better than all of us. Nick Pope in goal with 6 points, held that clean sheet for Newcastle. Harry Maguire with 11 had the assist. Matty Cash with 10 over at Villa had the goal for their only goal ever this season. Nico Williams, Forest defender, had a goal. Anton Stach, our player of the week, with 15 points. Ryan Gravenberch with 15 points, who also tied him, but screw Liverpool. Alex Iwobi over at Fulham, who had 13 points. Carmelo Anthony over at Burnley with 10 points. Bruno Fernandez had 10 points for United. Dominic Calvert-Lewin with 11 points. And Isidore over at Sunderland, forward with 9 points. So that would have scored you 120 points. So
Mm,
not a bad game week if you had all of those players. I think
yeah,
the overall average this week was 42, actually. So
yeah, not a great
kind of a
week.
low game week this week. Not a great week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens. But sometimes sometimes you just want players that are kind of insulating, right, from like the highs and the lows and the swings. You want ones that are kind of a little bit more protective. And Zach, this episode is sponsored by Gore-Tex coats. The ones bulky, indestructible, weatherproof fortresses that turn a simple walk down the street into a full body workout. Rain, snow, a light drizzle, forget it. Nothing's getting through. You could survive a hurricane in one of these things. So good luck fitting through a revolving door. George Costanza himself swore by Gore-Tex. He wore one so massive he needed his own zip code. People stared. People pointed. But when the snow started falling, suddenly George was the smartest man in New York. Gore-Tex. It's not just a coat, it's a survival strategy. Get yours today at GoreTexFortress.com and use code TINKER for 15% off. That's GoreTexFortress.com, code TINKER. Gore-Tex coats, making winter your problem since 1986. And back to the pod. All right, so let's get into our point totals. Why don't we bring yours up first?
We don't really have to
So let me
talk about
just.
it if we don't want to.
I mean, we may as well. I mean, the
No, just
listeners
kidding. Yeah.
want to know. Let's
Came
see
off
here.
the week before of this is FPL in a nutshell. So I believe it was like 96 points the week before, down to 28 points this week. Just screams
So
FPL.
let's just make sure folks have context. So FPL Black Lab, aka Zach, has made it his calling card this season to go as long as he can, or you're committed to the whole season. I forget.
I think I'm pretty committed. I haven't really thought otherwise
Okay.
yet.
To go no Salah and no Holland. So keep that in mind that he is intentionally limiting himself as far as options. Two of the, in theory, highest point scorers the game should provide. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
He's
So
beating me.
when
So
with
I'm not saying that like I'm just putting that out there for some of the folks who maybe missed some of the early episodes.
yeah, and it's actually, I mean, to be honest, I think the strategy's worked fine so far.
It
The
really
hardest
has.
part with the hardest part with this strategy is captaincy every week because you just don't have a set and forget captain. And with Saka out and Palmer out, those are kind of the next two best, and even Isak, and they're all starting to come back into the fold now. So I'll have to find a way to get those guys in. But yeah, Emmy Martinez in goal got me 3 points. That late goal hurt because clean sheet would have been nice there.
Yeah.
Munoz blanked, Cucurella blanked. That game was just a mess. Virgil got me
Yeah.
4 points because of DEFCON. Would have liked to see Liverpool hold the clean sheet there. Went with Poro against Brighton instead of Tarkowski against Everton. Honestly, looking back on that one, should have just took the DEFCON floor of Tarkowski. But I thought Brighton Spurs game would be up and down, and he'd maybe get a chance at some attacking potential, which, I mean, 2-2 game. He just wasn't on the end of it.
Hmm.
I stuck with Verts and Watkins for another week. They both had good fixtures. I wanted to bank another extra transfer there, but Verts didn't play. We came in late, got a yellow card, so 0-pointer for him. Matoma nothing in that 2-2 game. Watkins, Gyökeres, Pedro all blanked in a really tough fixture. So I knew it was going to be a tough week. Captain Semenyo got me 10. I was hoping, honestly, he was just going to haul, and that didn't happen. So had
Yeah.
Reinders on the bench, but would never have played him against Arsenal. So can't really look back on that one. Um, and I thought the Martinez fixture against Sunderland was better than Pope against Bournemouth, especially since I was captaining Semenyo. Wasn't going to captain a guy
Right.
against my keeper. So ultimately a bad week, but I've already made 2 transfers. I had 2 frees. I made them before the episode tonight.
Mm.
Given, yeah, Verts looked like he was going to drop in price again tonight, and I had like 1.6 in the bank. It's one of the perks of no Salah, no Holland is money's usually not
Yeah.
an issue. So I've already moved out Verts for Bruno. I love
Love
his
that.
fixture. The next 2, he's got Brighton away, or he's got Brentford away, and then Sunderland home. Honestly, he's probably going to be my captain this week.
That's a nice pick.
And then I moved Bruno Guimaraes out for Iliman and Jai from Everton, who I think at 6.5 million is like the best value pick in the game
Should be
on
on pens
penalties.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on penalties. He gets DEFCON. Everton's attack has looked great. They play West Ham this week, so he's in my squad. So I'm backing Watkins one more week. Um, he's got Fulham, but again, I didn't know who I'd move him to, so I wasn't going to take a hit to move Watkins out this week.
Yeah. I mean, I think just looking at your team too, like when you see Cucurella not start, when you see Verts not start, it almost stings that much more because you're like one sub away from, another 9 points. And like you mentioned, like you're if Sunderland don't score, right, like there's another Martinez and he probably even gets bonus at that point too,
Yep.
because you see that happen a lot when, a team gets a clean sheet. I don't say most of the time, but sometimes keepers get some of that bonus point too. So, because they're making saves and whatnot to keep the clean sheets. Yeah, the swing there probably hurt a little bit, but yeah, it happens. I've had some rough weeks to start too. So, but I like your transfers already, and I like the aggressive move. I know that you
Yep.
and I have spoken. I think last week I made my move Monday night. Yeah, same thing you're doing here. So yeah, you got to get ahead of
Yeah,
those
I mean,
price changes. That money
yeah, I'm
matters.
usually against price, like doing it because of price changes, and would rather wait on the information as the week goes on just to make sure nothing happens to these players during the week. But Verge is dropping like,
Yeah.
a game stock. So it's just a matter of like, yeah, being ahead of that, because I want to leave enough money in the bank where, like, if I want to get to Saka next week or in 2 weeks, I have that money to do it. Or if I want to move Watkins up to Isak, like I can make the money work. So I couldn't lose any more value.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yep.
All right.
How'd you do?
So I had an okay week. I got the green arrow, I believe. So I had 49 points, so I beat the average. So I started cells, gave me 3 points. I had Dubravka on my bench, who gave me four. You live with it. Reynaldo, I had started him -2. That one stung. But if I think about who I would have started, so De Kuiper was on my bench. He was flagged, so he wasn't starting. And if I could have chosen between Dorgu and Reynaldo, I mean, I liked what Sunderland was doing defensively. I was kind of betting against
Mhm.
Villa to stay in their poor form. And if you had told me that Chelsea were gonna, have a red card in their 5th minute, I wouldn't have thought that Chelsea would have played poorly against United. I thought Chelsea were gonna kind
Yeah.
of come out and give it to them. So I guess, hindsight, obviously 2020, but is what it is. So that one hurt a little bit. Van de Ven gave me a point. Same thing with you with Poro. Maybe less of an attacking threat, but Van de Ven's been a very solid FPL asset this season. One of the
Mhm.
top, if not maybe, he might be the top owned defender this season, if not top 2 or 3.
Yeah, he's been great.
Mark Gahey, who I did bring in last week, gave me 7 points. Mo Salah gave me 5. Kudus gave me 7. Finally got a little reward for having him in my squad. Xavi, who I also brought in last week, only gave me 1 because he didn't really play that much, but nonetheless gave me the point. Semenyo gave me 5. I captained Holland, who gave me 18 points. João Pedro gave me 2, and Chris Wood gave me 2. Josh King sat on my bench with 1, and then, like I mentioned, Kuiper didn't play. So overall, I was trying to do the napkin math here. So last week, the transfer that I made was I moved in Mark Gahey, Javi Simmons, and João Pedro, and I moved out Ekatike, Reinders, and who was the defender? And Ola Aina. So Ola Aina was flagged, so he didn't play. Reinders had 9 points, and Ekatike had a goal. So net, I mean, he gave me 7. I mean, net, I lost points this week based on the transfers.
Yeah, but you probably wouldn't have played Reinders against Arsenal, so you probably would have played like Josh King, and he only got 1, so you
Right,
would have been kicking yourself to have Reinders on the bench. So I think net
exactly.
net with the decisions in hindsight, like you actually made out than if you kept those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for me, like, I mean, Ekatike did come off, right? Like, I don't see a scenario where Isaac goes into that team and Ekatike's minutes don't take a hit. I mean, Ekatike may still score goals. Do I think he's going to score more goals or the same amount of goals in fewer minutes? No. So, like,
Yep.
at the end of the day, do I feel good about a guy who we know his minutes are going to take a hit? Not really. And the fact that João Pedro was less expensive, I felt good about bringing him in. So I think this is one of those moves where, I had 3 transfers banked up. I think I'm not going to judge this transfer or this set of transfers off one game week. I think it'll hopefully pan out over the next
Yeah.
few.
Yeah, FPL is a game where you judge your decision making, not the result, because
Yeah.
soccer is a game that things can shift pretty quickly. Um, and ultimately, if Chelsea didn't get the red card, Joao Pedro could have hauled in that game for all you know. So
Right.
it's just circumstances.
Yeah. And then that takes us to Lord Tinkerton. So our AI manager, again, had another minus player this week, which kind of helped things. So he scored 44 points. So did beat the overall average, but I did beat him this week. Unfortunately, Zach, he did beat you. And did he beat Jim
Oh
this
yeah,
week? He did beat Jim this week.
he did.
If we won't get into Jim's score this week. But so he had Sanchez at the back, got the -3, obviously the red card. He had Pedro Porro. We already talked about him. Tarkowski, you talked about him. Edmondson, who put in 4 points, so he had the DEFCON. He had Richards, defender for Palace with 4 points, so he got the defensive contributions there. He had Palmer, who's flagged now, so we'll have to see what happens there. He had Bruno Fernandes, who had the goal. He also had Kudus. He captained Mo Salah. He has Semenyo and Chris Wood. So he brought in Chris Wood and Evan Nilsson last week, and he moved out Strand Larson. And who was the other player that he moved out? I can't remember off the top of my head. But, at the end of the day, we're still trying to beat this guy. I have not been able to eclipse him just yet in the table, but I'm getting closer. And
And you've also
you are
I am. We're close though.
264. It's close. Yeah, he's only 3 points behind you.
Yeah.
And I have to give, okay, so I got to give some folks their flowers. So shout out to Akshay again, 315 points, first manager in the table for eclipsing the 300 point total. Nice game week at 53 points. Shout out to my brother-in-law, Space City Strikers, Matt Wannett, texted me this morning. He said he sent me a screenshot of the table and said I'd have to send another screenshot to show where Matt is because he's so low in the table. And I said, all right, that's fair. And then shout out to my nephew, Danny, who is my brother-in-law's son, who was also talking shit to me. And then I had to look, and he's 1 point ahead of me. So I can never live that down because, looking at his team, he was, you know, he captained Ekatike, which was the player that I moved out. His team honestly looks pretty good. I got to give it to him.
And then not too bad.
His bench is tough, but like, who cares about the bench, right? That's not where the points come from. So, 57 points, beat the average, beat me, beat the AI. Shout out to the league. It's nice to see. We're up to 15 people at this point. Still not too late to join. Happy to give folks a shout out if you do something worth shouting out. So keep it going. All right. real quick, I think we'll try to wrap things up pretty soon. Let's just take a real quick look. So, Zach, you mentioned you already made some transfers just to beat some price rises. So, as of right now, when we are chatting, which will be too late by the time this is actually posted, but Senesi, Gabriel, so Arsenal defender, David Raya, Arsenal keeper, and Zubamendi will all rise in price. So if you haven't brought them in yet, they will go up. There are some other players that are anticipated to rise, like Paqueta, Chalaba, Gravenberg, Anthony over at Burnley, like you mentioned, Dom Szoboszlai over at Liverpool, and Jack Grealish within the next couple of days. So those are some players that if they were on your radar, I know we talked about a lot of them tonight, actually. If you're thinking about bringing them in, you might want to make a move soon because if they go up in price and you get priced out, you might be kicking yourself. So just something to keep an eye on. All right, looking ahead at next week. Obviously, we have the preview episode coming out a little bit later this week, but Zach, I mean, any of these fixtures kind of stand out to you? Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I got to take a look at the midweek games. I honestly am looking very closely at the Everton West Ham game. Everton, I don't believe, have any midweek competitions this week
Mm-mm.
to worry about. So they're going to be fresh. I have no reason to think that they would not pounce on West Ham. They've looked phenomenal. So
And
could
it's at
be
home.
some, and it's at home. Love that new stadium for them. Yeah, I didn't. I know we're at the end here, so I don't want to open up that can of worms. But my thought exactly around do you really want to triple captain a forward, just knowing that the potential. You almost need like Holland to minimum score 3 just to like really make it worth it. But like, I don't know. That fixture is very tempting.
Yeah,
Or do you
very.
wait? I don't know. I don't know. My chip strategy is unfortunately it has not been thought out well enough. I can say that now. I don't think I thought about it well enough in the first half of the season. But it's okay. There's still time. Still plenty of time. But that being said, so we will still have our Game Week 6 preview episode coming out a little bit later this week. Please do subscribe, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Drop us a comment with your biggest surprise from this week, captaincy questions, whatever you got. It's still not too late to join our mini league. I'll drop the code in our description as always. And Zach, big thank you as always. We love having you here. Always appreciate your insights, your candor, your musk, your beautiful face.
Through the camera screen.
It's so great. The audience does not get the pleasure of seeing your 1x2 thumbnail that I do while I'm looking at you here while we're chatting. But it is easily the best. I mean, hour and 15 minutes that I've had today. My goodness, what a treat. So I thank you
Well,
for
thank
that.
you.
Sounds good. And until then, happy tinkering. See you next time.
Draft dreams rise like morning sun, chasing points, the game's begun. Big decisions week by week, fantasy glory's what we seek. Pick your squad, the clock won't wait. Captain choice will seal your fate. Two enthusiasts breaking it down. Fantasy kings, we're taking the crown.